It's really funny. I was in the middle of a presentation one day and I was spreading this thing, bring your passions to work, bring your whole self to work. And I had this guy in the audience and he says, Rick, what if my passion is stripping? What do I do about that? True story. And I thought to myself, okay, A, you're a jerk. And B, he's totally right.
Welcome to the Purposeful Life Show with your host, Adrian Starks. If you're looking for the ideas that can be your breakthrough for change in your business, career, or personal life, then this podcast is for you. Join Adrian as he speaks on topics of personal and professional development for the individual and interviews a variety of entrepreneurs, business owners, and thought leaders to reveal their ideas and solutions to success and its challenges. Subscribe to the show and leave us a review. It's time to be a courageous creator of your own change and be purposeful about doing it.
Well, welcome back to the Purposeful Life Show with your host, Adrian Starks. And I have an amazing guest on today, and his name is Rick Lozano. Rick, what's happening, my friend?
Hello, Adrian. Hello, everyone who's listening. Thank you so much, Adrian, for having me on the show today.
You're welcome. And thank you for taking out time to be with us today to show us about how to amplify our talents in our work field and how to look at leadership from a different perspective. So we're going to talk about that today. And I believe at the end, you might have a little song for us.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, before we do that, let's go ahead and let's get into who you are. Rick helps people unlock potential and amplify their talent. And he does it all with his unique blend of energy, expertise, and a musician's soul. Ooh. With 20 years of experience in award-winning talent and leadership development programs, Rick brings his unique approach to audiences across the globe, combining his skills as a world-class speaker with his talents as a singer, songwriter, and a musician. He is the author of Acoustic Leadership, Develop a Leadership Culture That Resonates, and the owner of Unlock and Amplify. He has built a reputation for his refreshing delivery that leaves audiences raving, and more importantly, with action items they can immediately implement to produce change. And I like that. Rick knows how to engage an audience. He combines his expert communication skills and an entertainer's heart with relevant, practical, and insightful content. His 3 words, engage, develop, inspire, are the things Rick Lozano does best, sometimes with a guitar in hand. Rick, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here. And thank you for your show and putting this into the world. The Purposeful Life podcast is fantastic. And I really appreciate you putting positive things into the world. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And, it's a great feeling to hear that insightful feedback from people, because I started this back in 2019. And let me tell you, it has changed a lot. But the guests that I bring on all have a unique way of showing their purpose toward things. And your purpose is quite unique, Rick, because you want to help leaders and individuals to create the next great version of their work, their teams, and themselves. And in your words, amplify their talent.
That is exactly what my life's mission is. And, I've been fortunate enough to be doing it for over 20 years. And I started off as a corporate sort of trainer, a corporate consultant, and spent the majority of my time doing personal development, leadership development. Mm-hmm. And, it's an amazing confluence of events that sort of led me to where I am now. I had a leader change my life. And this happened about, I would say, maybe 9 years ago. And it's a longer story than this, but I'll give you the really short version. One day, this leader of mine, he wasn't my manager, by the way, because my manager had been fired. So he was like my grand boss. So one day, my grand boss and I sat down, and he said, Rick, you're great at 3 things. I said, really? That's it? He said, yes, 3 things. You're a great trainer. You're a great musician. You're a great speaker. Do those 3 things. And I said, okay, well, I've got a gig next week. You could come by. He said, no. Do those 3 things at work, as part of your work. And it was funny, Adrian, you've probably heard this in your life like I have. People always used to tell me your personal life over here, your professional life over here. But when I finally did start incorporating music into the work that I did, everything changed for me. It provided me a new lens, a new filter through which to look at the world. It also provided me with a wellspring of inspiration and connections. And so I've been doing it ever since. And it's just been magical for me. And I'm
I
just
like
lucky
that.
that I get to do it for people. And in doing so, I connect with them and help them unlock their talented potential.
Rick, I love that story because I was going to ask you about how did the guitar come to work. The fact that your grand boss
Great
said
boss.
that, combine these things together is so important because we think that our passions are outside of our work. And,
Mhm.
I have a great mentor of mine too. His name is Matthew Knowles. And he told me that, Adrian, if you live your passion, you never work a day
Mhm.
in your life. And I
Yeah.
took that to heart. But here's the thing, Rick. I'm going to go ahead and put this out here. The
Yeah.
conditioning of society and how things have been going. The last 2 years have been hell. People
Oh,
have
yeah.
been jumping left and right, trying to just survive and make ends meet. And passion is the last thing that may be on some of their minds. However, that's why I want you to show, because we need to ignite and amplify that for them.
Yeah.
So, Rick, what do people keep getting wrong with the leadership and management aren't the same things conversation? Because we just talked about this a second ago about your grand
Yeah.
boss and the
Yeah.
manager that got fired. Is that part of the equation of they just didn't get it?
That may be part of the equation. I'm going to answer that question, but I want to go back to the passion thing for just a second because you said
Okay.
something to me that really stood out. And I've done a lot of talking about passion in my life and in my work. And I think what people often misunderstand about that is passion is the result of action.
Mm,
You
come on
probably are
now. Yep.
passionate about something. People were sometimes born with certain passions. But for most of us, when you think about the passions that we have, it's because we did something. We started something. For example, my wife and I are passionate scuba divers because 4 years ago, we just decided to do it. And I always try and encourage people because sometimes people go, well, I don't know what my passion is and I don't know where
Mhm.
to go. And I tell them that's okay. You don't need to know. You need to go. You need to
Mm,
start. Passion is the result of action. So that's thing number one. Now, when it comes to leadership and management, so often, and I've heard this throughout my career, well, managers and leaders, they're formal titles, formal positions, and there's other people in the leadership, maybe they're influencers and stuff, but we're going to focus all of our attention on the managers.
okay.
I think there's some fault in that. Because when you think about the people who are influencing on a day to day basis, it's not just your managers, it's not just your leaders. Because you do have those influencers, those thought leaders, those coworkers, and every single day they show up, they're impacting how other people feel. So
Mhm.
that was one of the reasons that I started writing the book and thinking about the leadership conversation differently because we used to spend in corporate development tons and thousands and millions of dollars on people with leadership titles. And sometimes we would see learning and development departments who said all of our classes are manager only. And I was
Mm.
kind of like the outcast in that group because I said, wait, time out. Why are we just letting managers into development courses? We need to develop these people as leaders because they are. They're leaders, whether you admit it or not. And if we don't give them the same opportunity to be effective, positively influential leaders, well, we're missing part of the equation.
Mm. Well said. I think about the time when I worked in the medical call center for about 8 years, and I realized that I was a manager there at that time of a scheduling center, but I also was a leader because people would come to my desk because I had this vibe and energy about me that they just wanted to be around that made them feel good about who they were and what they were doing. And so we would have these little powwows. They would come over and just say, "Hey, Adrian, can we just sit down at your desk here?" I had like little plants up. Rick, I had gemstones around my desk. I brought me to
Yep,
work.
yep,
I
yep,
brought my passions to work. So it just reminds me of that. Now,
yep.
speaking of back of passion here, because it's one of those things that I believe people just feel,
Mhm.
well, passion doesn't pay the bills for me, or my passion
Yep,
was something I did when I was a kid. I'm a grown up now and I have to be serious about life.
yep,
And that's not the case.
yep,
So, how can we help people to reignite their passion at
yep,
work?
yeah. Here's a thought for that. And when I very first started seeing this connection in myself, I was all excited about it. And I started telling everyone, yes, bring your whole self to work. And I think there's some truth to that.
Mhm.
But it was really funny. I was in the middle of a presentation one day and I was spreading this thing, bring your passions to work, bring your whole self to work. And I had this guy in the audience and he says, Rick, what if my passion is stripping? What do I do about that? True story. And I thought to myself, okay, A, you're a jerk. And B, he's totally right. You know, I mean, you can't bring that particular passion in most places to work.
You better
And it was
not.
funny because what I realized through this experience was that I reflected on why it had worked for me. And what I realized was it wasn't about bringing that particular manifestation of your passion to work. It was about bringing those areas of natural excellence and that different lens and filter. So nowadays, when people have that sort of reaction, what I say is, okay, I'll tell them that story and I'll say, let's think about it. Maybe you are a dancer. Maybe dancing is a passion for you. And maybe you can't do it at work. But what can you lean on from that perspective, from that skill set and apply at work? Well, let's think. What do dancers do? Balance, precision, gracefully flowing and falling and getting back up. And those things, whether they're skill sets or mindsets, that mindset of a dancer can make you show up differently for work. And I think that's where we help people when we say, what are those natural areas of strength, those natural areas of talent, those natural passions of yours? Let's find a way to connect to those things. And you'll not only do work differently, you'll see work and feel work differently.
Powerful. And it reminds me of the guy that you just talked about, the stripping perspective. And he can strip away layers of problems at work. You know, it's like, how do you look at that from that perspective of what you're doing? And this is incredible here. I love this conversation. You know, what are some ways here for the corporate culture to make some changes that actually create that sensation of amplifying the power of their employees and just rocking things out and just creating some change?
Yeah. I think there's several things that we could do, and there's so many ways that we can approach this. I think one of the things that we need to realize is every single person shows up at work to do good work. Now, I know it doesn't always work out that way, but here's the thing, Adrian, nobody comes to work to be horrible at what they do. Nobody says, you know what, it's Tuesday, I'm gonna suck today. Nobody does that. People want to be great, and I think that our job as leaders, as coworkers, as an organization is to help people do their best work. So let's start by making it simple. And simplicity is one of the first three foundations in my book. The book, by the way, is called Acoustic Leadership, Develop a Leadership Culture That Resonates. And to me, it's all about this element of simplicity. When I wrote the book, one of the very first questions I asked was, well, if our job as leaders, for example, is to help people do their best work, what's getting in the way? And when I started asking that question, people had a lot to say. Things, like micromanagement and meeting overwhelm, email overwhelm.
Micromanagement,
toxic cultures and, all of these things. And I said, okay, what can we do about those things? And, the way the world works is pretty interesting to me because every now and then I find ideas that I wish I would have had a couple of years ago, but didn't then, but I do now. And one of the things that I use to help people simplify that work and get down to doing the right work is a process I call the need. And it's really, really simple, really straightforward. So when I ask people what gets in the way of work, they respond and I say, okay, let's focus on the need. And the need is purposefully misspelled. It's an acronym that stands for negotiate, eliminate, automate, or delegate. So when you look at the things that we're dealing with, the things that maybe you're getting in the way of people's talent and potential, my question is, what can we delegate? And when I say delegate, by the way, I don't mean pawn off on somebody else. I mean, what can we give someone to help them be successful? And by the way, the number one thing we can give people is trust.
That is it.
I noticed the reaction on your face to micromanagement a minute ago. Micromanagement is all based on a lack of trust. So
it destroys so many things, Rick. It just takes down the layer of camaraderie and people's feelings about what they do.
And it gets in the way of their ability to actually do their work to the best of their ability. Because if we never let them step into that space, when are they going to get the opportunity? So that's delegate, right? Eliminate. What can we just get rid of? What don't we need to do anymore? What's not working? Automate. What can we automate? We've got apps for everything these days. What doesn't need a human touch? And then finally, and I think this one's where most of us land, negotiate. Because I live, you and I live in the same reality. We know what work actually looks like. And there's something somebody else finds valuable, but we have to do it, and it's maybe not the best thing. What can we negotiate? How can we change the terms just enough so that the work we're doing is the right work, setting us up for success and not getting in the way of our overall feelings about work?
Right. And I love these perspectives that you're putting in the action steps that we talked about earlier that you give people to start looking at. So for the audience listening today and watching, make sure you write these notes down and apply that. Don't just say, oh, yeah, Rick's good. That's right. He's so right about that. That's awesome. And you don't do a damn thing about it because that doesn't create any change. So you have to put that into action. Now, we just talked about a little bit of your book here, Rick, and I'm going to repeat the title here, The Acoustic Leadership, Develop a Leadership Culture That Resonates. And in this book, you talk about what people are getting wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that people are getting wrong when it comes to leadership and doing what is actually the right work?
Okay, let's start with one thing. What is expected of a leader? The role of a leader, in my opinion, is to primarily help people do their best work.
Mm-hmm.
But beneath that, it's two things. A role of a leader is to balance engagement and results. And what you see very often is a mismatch in those things. If they're not both being paid attention to, we're going to see gaps. So for example, the leader who's all about results, we know what happens here. People leaving in droves, they leave a trail of dead bodies behind them. That's not the kind of leader we want to be. The opposite of that is the one who focuses all on engagement, and people love this person, but nothing's getting done. So we've got to start with that. What is that right balance of engagement and results? So I think that's really important for us to notice. And I'm forgetting the second part of that question.
The second part of the question is, what is considered the right work?
Yeah. The right work is the thing, to me, that provides the best results for the organization and is the simplest way to engage this particular individual.
Okay.
And I spend a lot of time, like you mentioned in the book, talking about simplification. What can we simplify? I have a term for it, and the term in the book is the muck, because there were all these things that people were saying were getting in the way of their best work, and I just needed, a term. So I thought, muck, right? It's the stuff that slows us down. It's the, quicksand around our legs. Let's get rid of the muck. And that other tool, the need, can help us do that. Negotiate, eliminate, automate, delegate. I think there's one more step to that, though. And it's to realize that every organization has it. Every organization has some sort of muck. And there's a correlation, by the way, in this particular case, between size and muck. The larger the organization is, the more likely they are to have these factors, which is important because as companies grow, we need to remember, hey, the muck's going to grow too. What are we going to do about it? When we get rid of the muck, we help people feel better about the work that they do, and we help them do better work.
That's the key, helping them do better work and giving them the resources. And this is one thing that I learned when I was working in that field in the corporate world, was that I really didn't consider someone my boss. I considered them a leadership position or a managing position, because to me, and this is just my perspective, so if our audience are listening today and you disagree, that's okay to say I disagree. For me, the word boss, I've always seen it as a negative connotation of someone telling you what to do, saying I'm in charge, this is what I want, this is what you're getting paid to do, so do it. And that is a conversation that goes on in people's head. But when we reverbalize this and we say, hey, how do leaders become better managers of time and creativity and resources? Then I think that they will start having people see them as the leader that they are and that they can be, as opposed to saying, oh shit, gotta come to work today and be bossed around. I don't feel like that. And they put up this shield around them right away. And you're trying to figure out, why is this person giving me resistance today? And it's because they see it in a different way. So, but once again, there are good people out there who are bosses. I'm just giving my 2 cents on people who may be listening today that may say, I don't like the word boss, or I don't have a boss. But in reality is the person that you're working for, they're in control of what's going on. So you must follow the rules and do your best what you can. And if you don't, like Rick said, provide the need. What do you need? What can they provide? What are you missing? It's communication is a big key. And speaking of communication, Rick, let's talk about another thing that you use to execute your strategy for action steps with leaders and teams. Let's talk about the RIFF model. Now, when I saw this, I was like, okay, this is freaking clever. And for those of you who don't know what riff is, well, if you're not a musician or if you don't listen to music, the riff, when you're playing something, a certain type of rhythm that's going on within the song. And so you made this become a strategy. And I want to go back to you're taking exactly what you're passionate about that your boss told you, and you're bringing it to what you teach. Absolutely brilliant. So what is that riff model, my friend?
So the RIFF model to me is a foundation for how we look at the work that we do, whether it's personally or professionally. And we say, how can we get that next thing to happen? And to me, the RIFF is a model that helps us do exactly what my work is all about. It helps us unlock our talent and potential. The RIFF stands for rewrite, integrate, focus, and flow. And what's really the RIFF thing to me is so exciting because it's also going to be the subject of my next book. And as I've been developing the RIFF model, it's been resonating with people. And suddenly people have going, okay, what can we do in each of those 4 quadrants? The rewrite, what are we doing and why? Mm-hmm. How can we negotiate the terms of the work that we're doing to get the right results? Integrate. What do we have available to us? And the integrate to me, when I very first started, that was the primary point of the next book. It was going, look, we've got all this talent. We've got all this potential, but we don't always realize it. And then you hear people saying things like, oh, well, we don't have enough budget. We don't have enough head count. We don't have enough people or resources. And I say, what are you doing with what you already have? What can you integrate that's already around you? I mean, COVID has been a great example for a lot of us. We got scrappy. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, when the rules of life change, we had to figure it out. And to me, those creative constraints can help. So what do we have available to us that we can creatively use to help us unlock that next thing? And then the last 2, the focus and the flow. Focus is, what are we giving our attention? Mm-hmm. And is it worth it? And flow, what are we giving our energy? And there's so much more to talk about, but man, it's just ripe with opportunity to really help ignite it. I was doing a leadership development thing with a bunch of CEOs from a public school system about a month ago. And we started introducing the RIFF, and it was amazing because a simple little framework can unlock a whole lot of brilliant ideas.
I love this. And that's why I wanted to bring the RIFF up, because you're creating this strategy for people to use into action steps. And here's the thing that I realized that is important. You said this earlier about what COVID has done to us as a culture and society. And let's be real here. People are scramblers now. They're finding ways to make money on their own. They're finding ways to generate some cash flow. And so it's very hard for corporations to say, well, you must work for us because this is paying your bills. No, it ain't. It ain't paying my bills. I'm using this as a side income. So I think people need to realize that we have to change how we deal with our employees and ignite that passion in them, which is perfect timing of what you are doing, because this will help to prevent turnover rates from rising and allow these companies and corporations and leaders. And if you're listening today, if you're one of those, you need to reach out to Rick and to learn this RIFF model, to learn these ideas and strategies. And for our audience, of course, they can get your book. And I want them to. I think you can go to Amazon and get that book and make sure that you become a student of it, underline it, write in it, and take notes and use it. What else can you provide them with, or would you like to provide them with, that would be maybe a starting point for them? Because you said everything starts first with that little step.
Yeah. Well, one thing that you can do, if anyone in the audience is interested in hearing more about the RIFF, I've developed an initial course on this subject with a whole bunch of supplemental materials. It's absolutely free. There's no obligation. It's just me introducing this into the world as I'm still developing it. If you go to ricklozano.com/riff, you'll have access to it's not a long course. It's about a 30-minute long course that goes a little deeper into every section of the RIFF model. And then from there, I provide you some worksheets, some checklists, some things like that, and some additional resources to help you unlock and amplify that talent and potential around you. So ricklozano.com/riff. That's a great place to start.
Excellent. I'll make sure to put these into the show notes, and so that they can get all that information from you and reach out to you. Now, with all my guests here, Rick, I want to know, what is your purpose towards life?
Yeah. My purpose is to put positive things into the world and help them grow.
Beautiful.
My purpose is to help others put positive things into the world and help them grow, because that's what I'm here for. And, whether I like it or not, whether I feel like, that was always my calling, I've come to realize that that's what I do best. I help people feel great about themselves. And to me, when you start to help other people feel great about themselves, it's like this chain reaction. It's like this domino effect. So I'm going to keep on doing it as long as I possibly can.
Love it. And it's a great thing that you are doing it. And this is why you're on the show, because you're bringing purpose to what you're doing. Now, what I have heard is that usually you will provide a song or two for the audiences that they can hear. And I would love for you to share that with our audience and listeners today. Before we do that, now, when I think of you, I think of a lot of great musicians and people who play the guitar. I think of, Santana. I think of B.B. King. And when I think of B.B. King, I think of his love for his guitar. And he named her Lucille. Yeah. Do you have a name for your guitar?
I actually don't. I've got a lot of guitars. Each one has their own special connection in my heart, but I'm not a guitar naming kind of person. But.
All right. I just wanted to ask that question because I was like, some people name their instruments, some people don't. And I just love the fact that you're using this to create some massive change in the culture, the world of corporate culture, and also in the world in general.
Yeah. Adrian, I'll leave you with both a song and a story. And I think that there's something that I've realized lately about myself. And, I've talked about bringing your whole self to work for a long time. I've helped, try and do my best work as a leadership consultant and so on. And for the longest time, my goal was to build what I'm building and help people do what they're doing. And I realized just lately that I was leaving something out, something that's a huge part of myself that really is, I don't know, one of the things I like about myself. And it's having fun. It's having fun and it's being funny and silly. And it was amazing because I realized, and by the way, I talk about authenticity a lot in the book. And I realized I wasn't, being truly authentic because I was trying to be seen, as the professional. And that's great. There's times and moments where I should be. But I realized that when I was connecting with people the most, I was having fun. We were having fun. We were creating this space where we could laugh and learn at the same time. And so to that end, I realized that one of the things I do really, really well, and I don't even have to try, is I have this talent for writing funny songs. And they just come to me when they come to me, and they're usually about work. And it was amazing because for the longest time I would tell people, oh no, but I'm a serious musician. Listen to my quote unquote real music. And by the way, I do have real music. I have, I think, 6 albums on Spotify and Amazon filled with all my real music.
Okay. Got to look that up.
Good. But I also tend to make people laugh. And so for my presentations, I usually bring at least one thing that can help with that. So let's do this. This is I hope, a funny song about, by the way, one of the biggest sources of muck that we see in the workplace, performance reviews.
Oh,
everyone has an opinion on performance reviews. And I've got some additional data to talk about in the book in relation to that. But I thought, hey, if I'm going to talk smack about something, I also got to put something positive in about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a song for you today. This is how not to do a performance review. This is a song called The Performance Review Song. Here we go. Based on a true story, by the way. Here we go. I'm writing your performance review. It says more about me than you. It's morally defeating and often misleading, but this is the best we can do. So here we go. I haven't said this all year, but now you're about to hear about that thing last November that you don't remember. That's not how we do things around here, just so we're clear. Now between you and me, this year everyone's rated a 3. Successful. And the budget is tight, and that team building night really cost us. Top golf ain't free. No, it is not. But I want you to know that I value your contributions to this organization. You are knocking it out of the ballpark. You are creating synergies with our stakeholders and optimizing efficiencies. You are a rock star. I love you, man. And in light of all this praise, here's your 0.5% raise. I hope you enjoyed your performance review. Let's do it again next year. The performance review song.
That made me laugh so much because it brought back so many memories. And the last part about the 0.5% raise.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. Rick, this has been amazing. And you are absolutely a phenomenal leader, musician, and just a pioneer of change. And I want to thank you for being on the show. For our audience listening today, make sure you go and to check out Rick on his website. And I'll provide you with the show notes here of that information, and to sign up with him, to learn some things, watch that free video, and to also go to Spotify and listen to some of his real music. But I think music is music regardless, because it's coming from the heart and the soul. So Rick, my man, you are a definitely courageous creator of change. And I'm just so happy that I was able to share this energy and space and time with you. And you're incredible.
Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate you having me on the show. And I appreciate you creating this conversation in this community for helping other people live their purposeful life as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's been amazing, and I will see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Purposeful Life Show with your host, Adrian Starks. Subscribe to the show and connect with Adrian on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Learn more about the host and his change-making perspectives at adrianstarks.net, and download the podcast on your favorite platform to be inspired by more life-changing content. It's time to be a courageous creator of your own change and be purposeful about doing it.